sometimes that is just as egotistical as being super insecure, which, by the way, can be very egotistical. It's all about me, 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 me. I'm so bad. People must be looking at me. People must be thinking about me. You're just in me city, okay? Hello friends, welcome back to the Confident Dancer YouTube channel. If you don't know me, my name is Kirsten. I'm a high performance mindset coach for dancers, former full-time professional dancer, still dance, and I love to talk about all things dance related, specifically the mental side of dance. And since I know so many dancers struggle with imposter syndrome, whether you are a recreational dancer, a pre-professional dancer, or even a well-established professional dancer, I know that so many of us struggle at one time or another with imposter syndrome. So today I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about 5 tips to help you start to overcome that imposter syndrome, because I know it can show up in such frustrating ways, like not feeling good enough, feeling like you're just one mistake away from everyone finding out that you don't actually deserve to be there and you don't belong. Things like that. And it can just feel so stressful to constantly have this nagging sense that you're not good enough. And that typically causes dancers to feel like they have to hustle. They have to be hyper vigilant, always looking out on how can I be perfect, or how can I not show that I'm actually not good enough to be here. And it just feels like you're constantly trying to prove yourself, which is so exhausting. On top of already dancing, which is, of course, fun and joyful, but it's also hard enough as it is. So trying to really, really prove yourself and overcome this nagging sense that you're not good enough in some way is just exhausting. Here are some tips I want to give you to start to help you break through this. This is definitely informed also by my professional opinion. I've worked with so many dancers who experience this. This is way more normal than you think, and you would be shocked who struggles with this, no matter how much you think from looking at someone on the outside how great they must feel because they're such a beautiful dancer. They might be experiencing this too. So I say that to share that you are not alone if you're watching this video and this is something you struggle with, and it's an internal experience that truly is not defined purely by how you look on the outside. So let's just start it there. So let's get into tip number 1. The first tip I have for you is to identify the assumptions you're making, okay? We're going to get into beliefs in a few minutes, but before we talk about beliefs, which feel a lot more serious and ingrained, I want to bring up the idea of our assumptions. What we are assuming is true, what we are assuming other people think about us, what we are assuming other people see. A lot of times when we're experiencing imposter syndrome or self-doubt or any sort of negative beliefs or lines of thought about yourself, so often what is floating around in our minds are assumptions that have been going on unchallenged for a long time. And a huge part of the process of beginning to change your mind and your internal experience is identifying what are the assumptions you're making and starting to challenge them. Get curious about them after you identify what they are. So start with identifying, okay, what are the assumptions I'm making about what other people see in me? What are the assumptions I'm making about what other people feel about me? And then start to challenge that. Could that really be true? How likely is it that other people in your very class or company are feeling the same way, but you think, oh no, they must feel so good about themselves because they're amazing. Also, what are the assumptions you're making about other people's credentials, other people's history? Not just the way they feel about you, but even the way they feel about themselves. So often, again, when we're experiencing something like imposter syndrome, those negative thoughts, which a lot of them, again, are assumptions, start to really isolate us. They start to feel so believable, like, yeah, you know what, that does feel true. That is true. People must see that I'm a failure. They must also think that I don't deserve anything I have, or that I'm behind, or I'm not very good, whatever. Those might be assumptions. So let's just start there with the practice of identifying what assumptions are you personally making about yourself, other people, the way they think and feel about you, the way they think and feel about themselves. Just start to question, okay, is that true? How likely is it that it's not true, and give yourself the benefit of the doubt, okay? And start to get curious about, could there be another truth that I'm not seeing? Let's start there with tip number 1. Now, tip number 2 is to recognize that the negative beliefs you have about yourself are probably causing you to fixate on your flaws, the things you're insecure about, or the things that you feel aren't good enough. So the beliefs are probably causing you to fixate on that information, which feels like evidence that validates that your negative beliefs about yourself are true. You know, it might be that you're not good enough, you're behind, you don't belong, whatever it is. It's always some form of I'm not good enough. Particularly, I'm uniquely not good enough compared to everyone else, or people see this on the outside, but what's really true is I'm not good enough, I don't belong to be here, I can't handle this, whatever it is. And so those negative beliefs, even the nature of beliefs is that our beliefs literally dictate what information our mind notices, picks up on, and fixates on. And whatever our focus goes towards, we take that in. It influences the way we feel. The way we feel definitely impacts the way we act, and we might notice we just don't dance as well when we're really in that feeling of imposter syndrome. And then it's like, because you're not dancing as well, it reinforces the belief that you're not good enough. And so this is why tip number 2 is to identify the negative beliefs and remember that they are probably causing you to have that confirmation bias experience where, because you believe something is true, you notice more evidence that validates that belief, and then the sense of truth around that belief just gets more and more reinforced. And by the way, that's a huge thing that I work on when I coach dancers in the Confident Dancer coaching program. It's specifically identifying what are the beliefs. A lot of them are unconscious. You might not even be aware of a lot of the layers of beliefs that you have and how they're literally creating the experience that you have that just feels like absolute truth, but it's not. Like, you can totally, I see this all the time, when dancers start to identify and release the limiting belief systems they've had for years. In a lot of cases, they start to feel better than they ever thought they could feel. They start to dance better and improve faster than they ever thought they could. I have so many clients tell me that their teachers and directors will literally come up to them and are like, something is different. What's going on? Like, you seem way more confident. You're dancing like you have this fire in you. Like, whatever you're doing, keep it up, okay? And I've just seen that way too many times to not mention this, just to show the power of our belief systems, because all we change, it's really the belief systems. And I give them some different tools and practices on how to hone their focus in class to help improve their inner state that helps them dance better, you know? This is why tip number 2 is so powerful and why it's so important to identify the negative beliefs and make that connection to, okay, how is it causing you to fixate on information that's really not the whole truth? It's just like a little bit of what's going on. Maybe your mind gets so stuck on the 3 mistakes you made instead of all the other amazing things you did, and you're so stuck focusing on like the 3 mistakes you made that are proving that you're not good enough that you don't even realize that's not the whole truth. And there are so many other more empowering beliefs available to you. The last thing I'll say on this point is start to invite yourself to see yourself from another point of view. Ask yourself, okay, how likely is it that other people are actually seeing all of me and I'm only seeing the negative parts because of my negative belief systems? How likely is it that other people see my strengths and the beautiful things that I do, and they appreciate that because they're not in my head with all the negative thoughts that I'm having? And invite yourself to see yourself from another person's point of view who you know supports you. That can start to open your mind up to seeing yourself from a different perceptual position, it's called, and that will start to open yourself up to noticing what could be good. And you can also just consciously choose to notice, okay, what did I do well? What improved? What have I gained or learned or gotten better at in the last few weeks? That can start to open your mind up to focusing on evidence to support new empowered beliefs. The third tip is to depersonalize your failures. I use air quotes because I hate the word failures, but anyway, that's another video. And personalize your successes. So again, depersonalize your failures, personalize your successes. I just use the word failures because it is a word that we resonate with. Like, a lot of us feel like, oh, I failed, or that's something I was really bad at, whatever. So I just use it because it tends to resonate, not because I like to use that word. I really don't think true failure is like a real thing. It's the most human, normal thing to not meet your own expectations sometimes, but how you're defining failure is probably subjective, and there's probably a lot of good stuff you can learn from the experiences you have where you don't meet your own expectations. You know, a lot of good can come from that. But anyway, if you want to use that word, be my guest. I totally get why people use it. But okay, the point. When we are stuck in imposter syndrome, it tends to be this way of thinking that's very rooted in like, I'm different. Okay, yeah. Other people can mess up. Other people can maybe start dancing late and they can still be a good dancer. But like, since I started late, I'm uniquely bad in some way. Or, you know, that dancer doesn't have the perfect body, but I can see their good qualities. But since I don't have the perfect body, like, oh my gosh, I'm going nowhere. I'm so bad. And obviously I'm dramatizing that, but it really can be that way if we think about it. Like, we tend to personalize the things that we feel are not perfect about us or wrong with us, or our journey, our credentials, our story. We personalize it. We're like, oh, that's so bad for me. That means so much about me. Meanwhile, other people who aren't in your head, they're not personalizing that for you. They're not sitting around thinking, oh my gosh, that is so lame, so bad that this person didn't start ballet at 6 years old or whatever. So many other people, since they're not in your experience, they're not personalizing what you think are your flaws. So they don't really think that much about it. They're just like, oh yeah, have you ever had the experience where you're watching someone else dance and you see them make a mistake and you even mentally acknowledge it and you're just like, oh, okay. And you don't really have this big reaction, or like it doesn't ruin your day. And I know, because you don't have to sit with the consequences of that, but it goes to show that there's such a power to seeing your own flaws and quote unquote failures as something that's not personal. Like, everyone has them. You're truly not unique. And imposter syndrome will lie to you and make you feel like, oh no, that's so unique. You're so insufficient. Oh my gosh, I'm being so dramatic today. That's so bad, but it's not. It just makes you a person. And I can guarantee the other people you're looking up to, who you feel like, oh my gosh, they just have it all together, you are personalizing their successes and making that mean something positive about them. Like, oh, they're so great. They work so hard. They must feel so good. You're personalizing their successes for them. And personalizing just means like assigning a positive meaning to yourself from a certain experience. So when you personalize your own successes, basically what that means is you notice what you do well and you celebrate that means something positive about you. Like, yeah, I worked for that. Or yeah, I'm proud that I really applied myself and created that change. Or yeah, you know what? I am good at that. Those are examples of personalizing what goes well, or your successes, so to speak. So when we just flip this around and we allow ourselves to personalize our successes and depersonalize our failures, it doesn't mean you'll become arrogant or prideful or delusional about your abilities, which I say that because I hear that objection all the time to changing your way of thinking. It's like, oh, but won't I become an arrogant person that everyone hates because I'm so arrogant? Or won't I stop working hard because I'm thinking highly about myself now? And by the way, you guys, I don't even recommend that you focus on thinking so highly about yourself, because sometimes that is just as egotistical as being super insecure, which, by the way, can be very egotistical. It's all about me. I'm so bad. People must be looking at me. People must be thinking about me. You're just in me city, okay? The answer isn't to go to me city on the other side and be like, I'm so much better than everyone else. It's just to be able to celebrate, yeah, that happened for me. I did that. I'm proud. Celebrate it. Enjoy it. Let yourself receive the enjoyment of what you just did or what you just received or experienced, and move on. And this practice of personalizing your successes and depersonalizing your failures, don't be afraid to be a little more extreme with it for a time while you balance out your view of yourself. Because chances are, if you experience imposter syndrome, you've been personalizing all the things that you think you're doing wrong for a long time, and you probably haven't been practicing celebrating what you're doing well. So don't be afraid of doing that. The next tip is to examine the past experiences you've had that you've been holding against yourself as evidence for your negative beliefs. So for example, if you believe that you are the underdog, you are behind, you have to work harder than everybody else because you don't have the natural facility or technique or whatever. That's like a very normal belief that a lot of people have no qualms about having. Meanwhile, it's causing them to hustle, to feel like they cannot rest adequately, that they can't trust that, a healthy amount of effort is enough. They're always like pushing themselves to the extreme. That's just one example of an unhealthy belief system. But yeah, once you notice what the negative belief is for you, or belief system, it could be several beliefs put together, ask yourself, okay, when did I decide that? What happened in my life that made that feel true? And then here's the key, don't stay there as like, oh, well, yeah, so it's true because XYZ happened. Rather, go back to your memories of these past experiences. Like maybe it was going to your first audition and feeling way behind and being so surprised at how talented everyone else looked when you got there. Maybe you took that as evidence in your younger brain, like, oh yeah, this means I'm behind, this means I'm not good enough. Go back to that time when you made that decision, on purpose or not. A lot of times beliefs are not formed consciously. Go back to that time and allow yourself to be like, oh, okay, what can I learn from that time in order to let that negative belief go? Because honestly, sometimes that's all we need to start to untangle our sense of truth around these beliefs that have been affecting us so much. The last point is shift your focus from trying so hard to prove yourself to focusing on what you are grateful to receive in the current position you have and what you want to give in that position. So I'm going to repeat that. Shift from trying to prove yourself all the time to practicing gratitude for what you are grateful for and excited to receive in your position. Maybe it's even receiving the camaraderie, receiving the opportunity to even, sure, let's say it's literally true that you're the least skilled dancer in the room. Okay, that still doesn't mean you need to have imposter syndrome. You're actually in the most fabulous position to learn and grow because you get to be around so many people who can show you what you can be, how you can approach your technique. You can learn so much in that position if you're willing to also be humble and say like, you know what, yeah, this is where I am, but how fortunate am I that I can receive this opportunity to learn? So you can be grateful and then focus on what you want to give through that opportunity that you have. So maybe it's you want to give yourself a chance to grow. Maybe you want to give other people the encouragement of seeing you and being like, you know what, that person's there and they're maybe struggling, but they're still here and they're being nice to themselves and giving themselves space to grow and giving themselves grace, all this stuff. Maybe that's what you have to give. Or maybe it's you can give your joy of dance to the audience that you're so worried you won't be good enough for. You could give your joy to them because skill level does not dictate inherently how much joy you can feel and how much joy you can give, okay? We act like it does, but it doesn't have that power if we don't give it that power. So I really hope you've enjoyed this video. I want to remind you that in the Confident Dancer Coaching Program, which is the mindset coaching program I've specifically developed to help dancers overcome the mental struggles and blocks that are stopping them from feeling joy in their dancing, feeling good about themselves, confident in their dancing, and also stopping them from performing their best consistently. In that program, if imposter syndrome is something you're really struggling with, we go into the roots of where is that coming from for you personally, and we work to release the roots of the imposter syndrome that even if you've been experiencing it for years, I've seen it time and time again with clients that they can let it go and start to have healthy self-esteem again, confidence in what they have to offer, and they're able to really blossom in their ability to perform and enjoy themselves again, not be so caught up in their head. So if that's what you want, of course, this video is a great start, but we could go so much deeper in that program to really resolve this for you. So if you want help and targeted support around that, know that it's available to you. You can just click the link in the description, visit my website, learn more about the program, and set up a free 30-minute consultation to meet and see if working together will be a great fit for you personally. So thank you for watching. Hope you really enjoyed this, and I'll see you next time. Bye.